Okay, preparing for live stream. Zainab, you can hear me clearly. Is that right? Okay, great. Close to the speaker as possible. Okay, great. We are live and we have people signing in. So thank you very much for everyone logging in. We will be starting in a moment or two with our webinar session for the day. Okay, great. Thank you everyone for logging into our Wellness Wednesday live webinar. This is a platform focused on health and wellness with guest speakers and specialists answering your questions about well-being. My name is Zarmina and I'm delighted to be on this journey with you today. For today's session, do remember you may share any questions you have for our speaker via the chat feature, and we will get to them in the second half of this session. Now, I would like to introduce you to our speaker today. Zainab Salbi is the founder of Women for Women International. People magazine named her as one of the 25 women changing the world. Foreign Policy magazine named her as one of the 100 leading global thinkers. And Fast Company identified her as one of the 100 most creative people in business. Zainab is also a public speaker, activist. Please join me in welcoming our guest, Zainab Salbi. Good morning, Zainab, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning. So such a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you.
It's so nice to speak to you, and our viewers are so excited about the session today. And you know, before we jump right into it, there is already so much information about you out there, but I would love to hear your introduction of yourself. That would be wonderful for all of us.
Well, I am a woman from Iraq. I was born and raised in Iraq. And I would say there are a few defining moments in my life. One is I grew up in war. And at a very early age, I realized what war means in so many different dynamics, and the fear of war, in the fear of losing your life or your family's life, and the courage of people to keep life going during war, particularly women, in my opinion. So that's one defining moment. The second part is that I grew up in a family that knew Saddam Hussein. My father was his personal pilot, and that also was a defining, shaped my life, because, you know, being that close to someone that powerful had his own impact in understanding so many things. I wrote a book called Between Two Worlds, because I felt I was between two worlds, or I was neither of the palace nor of the people, and stuck in between these two worlds. But that gave me a glimpse of what it means to see the humanity in everyone. That shaped my life tremendously, because I could see people on a very personal level on both sides of the aisle. And the third part is I had a very strong mother who basically used to tell me I have to be always independent as a woman. I have to earn my own money. I have to be strong. And that sort of helped me. And when I later came to America, I was 19, about 20. I came to America through an arranged marriage. And that was not a good experience. The marriage ended up being very abusive. And I'm in America, and Iraq had invaded Kuwait, so I could not go, you know, I was like, there was cut off. I was cut off from my family. And I remember the things that my mother told me: be strong, be independent. So here I am in a foreign country with an abusive situation. And, you know, being a Muslim woman and a pious woman and all of these things, you're told to, like, sort of, you know, the culture tells you to tolerate a lot of things, right? But my mother words was telling me, do not tolerate any abuse. No man should treat you badly. It doesn't matter who you are. No one can speak with you in the wrong way or touch you in the wrong way. And this all her life told me that, right? So when I was being spoken to in the wrong way and being abused physically in the wrong way, I knew that this is wrong. So I was 20-year-old only in a foreign country, no family or friends around me. I had $400 in cash, nice clothes, suitcase of clothes, but not only very little cash. And I knew I am not asked to tolerate. I should not tolerate this abuse. So I leave the marriage after 3 months, and I start my life from zero. And I am like in a foreign country, right? And I can't tell people who I was before in Iraq because I'm scared, and because Iraq was the enemy in America. And that's how I start my life. And comes the second chapter of my life, where I learn about wars in different countries I've never heard of. At that time, it was Bosnia, and abuse women were going through. And I felt, honestly, and I still feel, that when we see injustice in front of us and we have the capacity to act upon it, I believe it is our responsibility to act. That if we don't act against injustice, we legitimize it and we allow for the corruption of our own values. And what I mean is that, we all think of ourselves as good. We are good. But if you see something wrong and you don't do anything about it and you turn the other face, then you are corrupting your values, your goodness, because you're not acting on it. It takes courage to be good. It's not only good, it takes courage to be good. So when I saw abuse of other women in countries, I was living in America, in a country that frankly enabled me to start from zero, even though I'm a foreigner, and had the freedom to speak whatever I want. So I started a group called Women for Women International. And I started with helping 30 women, all my friends, from the Middle East, my Arab and Muslim friends. They were laughing at me. They're like, get a job, get a car, buy a house. I'm like, no, but this is wrong. We have to do something about it. So Lord and behold, I started something as a mom and pop, organization. And 20 years later, it ended up helping 460,000 women, distributing $146 million to them and their families, and impacting 1.7 million people. Wow. And, I always say, if I, an immigrant woman who left an abusive husband with $400 in a foreign country, can do that, then everyone can do that in the world. Everyone can go about and live their purpose. And the only difference between one dream and the other, honestly, there are many differences, of course, sometimes luck, opportunities, but resilience and perseverance in going about the dream and not backing off. And that was my lesson. And then I leave the organization because I want to start a new chapter of my life. And that is, I start a media company where I start the Nida show in the Middle East, and I do many shows in America, the Zainab Salbi project, or different shows in America, all about understanding the world from a woman's perspective. And I say that, because even the best of men, right? There's a saying that says, we see things as we are, we do not see things as they are. Me as a woman, I do not see things as men see it. So I believe, but the world, it's been led by men. So I believe we need to understand and take the time to see the world as women see it. So all my shows is about understanding how women experience the world and see the world and feel about the world, and what are the values women are bringing into the world. And then last year, I was at the peak of my career, Damina. I had a major show in Yahoo News that was all over the news. I was a commentator on MSNBC. I had just finished my latest book, Freedom is an Inside Job. I had all the checkpoints that you measure success, very, promising, whatever, very thriving career, check, making good financial income, check, having my home, check, having my, nice clothes, check, having, I was booked to a nice vacation with my friends, check, and I get sick, like suddenly. And I was receiving a major award from Annie Lennox, major celebrity, check. It was like a peak month, right? I was all over the news in America. And then I get sick and I get rushed to the ER, to the emergency room, then who then put me in an ambulance. It's like the movies, you know. I've never been inside the ambulance with a siren. And then they take me to the operation room for a life-threatening operation that I had to do that moment. And I end up being 1 week in the ICU, intensive care unit, and life changed after that. Life change. And there was a time in which I didn't know if I could breathe even, or if I could walk, or if I could speak, or if I could think. And it had, so all the things that you build got demolished basically all of a sudden. And then I left with the one that conversation that I guess is starting our own conversation now, which is a dialogue with my heart. You know, because when everything, you know, I was surrounded by family and friends. I am thankfully loved. I felt loved. I feel loved. But then after the day, after everyone goes to home and sleep, and you are in the hospital bed alone. Even my brother was there. I mean, like, there are people there, but still, that moment is an intimate moment when you're between life and death. You're alone, and and that's when I realized, wow, I have not spoken to my heart before. And I have not heard my heart before, because I've been so busy accomplishing and doing and all of that. And, you know, they're good, all good news, all good purposes, serving the world. But I've never taken the moment to connect to my heart before. And and life ever since have changed and took me to another journey that brings me here today. And when I opened my eyes from the operation, the first word I uttered in my head is kindness, kindness. And that has been a discovery of what does life mean if all these material things are taken away from you, and what is the meaning of life, and what is the meaning of you if none of the things that society say this is you are, and this is who you are, and we attribute meaning and importance to them. If they're all gone, so who are you?
That is so wonderful, Zainab. Thank you for getting personal and for sharing with us about yourself. I want to unpack a little bit on challenges in life that you've shared. You know, everyone faces their own challenges. You know, some can relate to specific things, some can relate on a more general scale. And a lot of the questions we're getting are around in the current environment. You know, one of the common challenges a lot of us are facing are the pandemic. So in that context, what is your guide for facing the challenges and linking that to healing? How can we do that in the environment we are all facing today?
Well, I can speak from my experience, right? So where all the things that were solid and you can be in control over your life were gone. You are no longer, in essence, in control over your life, right? I'm sharing my experience, but as you said, each person have that. And these days, we all are facing that. You know, if you had a job and the job is gone, you don't have control over getting a new job. I mean, you try. If you want to have a child and you can't get a child, you're not in control, right? If you have ambitions, and it's not you sometimes. And these days, particularly, we are not in charge of what can happen in the world. So when we are that scared, it's scary. I mean, that's why so many people have anxiety and stress and all of these things. And mind you, when that happened to me and I had to stop everything I've done in my life because I couldn't even think or I couldn't walk for many months, that was very scary, very scary. Like, oh, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to me? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be able to survive? Am I going to be able to earn a living? Am I going to be able to, and when people ask you, so what are you doing? And you're like, I don't know. I don't know, and I think in this moment of time, a lot of us just don't know, simply don't know. And frankly, if you know, wow, you're lucky, but I mean, everyone has this aspect of their lives where they don't know what's going on in the world, right? So I can tell you what I did to help me come back to fully, I call it arriving. It's not come back to my health, it's actually arriving to myself. And I argue that oftentimes we have led so much of our lives from our mind. We think so much and we operate from our mind, and we disconnected ourselves to our heart. And one of the things I learned, and here's one of my steps, the 7 steps, is to trust life. Trust it. Now, trusting life, you may say, well, what does that mean? And what's going to happen to me? And am I going to be okay? On all of these, monster in your brain that is speaking. The first thing I learned is to trust life, because here's the thing. We have no choice. We have no option in front of us, right? So either we trust and relax into the mystery, or get into more anxiety and stress, eat more, do whatever our bad habits are, whatever it is, and get stuck in the anxiety and the stress. So really, like, what choice do you have? Like, these are the 2 choices, right? So I learned to, like, okay, and I would experiment the 2 days. I experiment the 2 days, and the days in which I trust life is the day in which things actually start happening. And I'll give you a small story. I have a bird feeder. I just moved to a new home in nature, and I put a bird feeder, and I was so excited to get the birds, and no birds showed up. No birds. And I was very sad. I was very devastated. Like, no birds are coming. I bought the bird feeder. I bought the bird seed. Nothing is coming. And this is when you're out of control. You cannot control the birds to come to the bird feeder because you want to see them, which is life, right? Our own life, right? And I was really sad, actually, for like 10 days and anxious. And then I was like, maybe I should go and buy another bird feeder or another seeds or another whatever, and all of these things. And I called my therapist. One of my things is I have to have my own team of support for myself. And that team of support, it depends each time, but I have a team. It's my therapist. It is my meditation guide. It is a friend, and I have this team, which some people I pay and some people I don't pay. They are my friends, right? But they are, every person, I think they should have a team, and some are professional and some are friendly, just because we bounce back ideas. So I called like, oh my God, it's like you. And he said, just let it be for a while. Let it be and see, before you change direction, see if any birds will come. It took 10 days. And I gave up. I trusted, basically. It's not giving up. I trusted. I said, I put the bird feeder, I put the seed. There's nothing I can do. I'm going to trust rather than go the anxious way. And suddenly, I was sitting one day drinking my coffee, and a goldfinch comes. A small bird that is gorgeous comes and eats from the bird feeder. And I start crying. And it took 10 days. But it took me I acted. The lesson I learned, I acted, put the bird feeder in the tree and put the seeds. Then I had to trust, because when I got anxiety that I couldn't control the outcome, I had to trust. That was the only choice. So I went anxiety and it was not fun. Then I trusted and it was more relaxing. And the bird did come. It took its own time. That is not in my control. It took, its own rhythm. But now many birds are around that bird feeder. So it taught me and this is a very simple example, to trust life, trust everything will be okay. But there's part of it is that we have to trust, act, do what you need to do, but then also step back and trust.
That's so wonderful. I love that. Trust the mystery. And, the way you've structured in such a simple example what we can implement in so many different aspects of life. And I think there's a lot of takeaways for us watching this. And if you would allow me, Zainab, I would like to quote you actually in one of your books for those who haven't read, Freedom is an Inside Job. And you write, so as long as we are conflicted within, we will continue to have conflict without. If we want to change the world, we need to begin with ourselves. This is the path to freedom. Can you tell us a little bit behind this and where is this coming from and what were you thinking in this moment?
Well, often all of us, I believe, by the way, when I say us, because there are sets of human emotions. These human emotions, every single human feels them. I say us, I don't mean us and them, it is every human feels these emotions, right? And one of these emotions, and towards this point, is that we project or we blame everything that is not good in our life on others. She is mean, he hurt me, she cheated on me, he stole from me, he is rude. Do you know what? We blame everything on others, right? My father did this to me, my mother said this to me, my brother said, if you haven't done that in your life, I was like, wow. Because we each have someone who has hurt us in our lives, everyone. And sometimes it is relatives and sometimes it's a boss. What I argue is, I understand, but that's have been our pattern, is we blame everything outside, right? What I'm saying, what I argue is, go inside and see where the things actually, look at the same story from another lens, where from inward, not outward, and see where your responsibility or where your action is in the story. Not to blame yourself. There is a difference. I stopped judging myself. I stopped torturing myself, but to be in awareness of yourself. We all have things that we're ashamed of, or we're not happy about our character, or we don't like that. And rather than be ashamed of it and be judgmental of it, I'm saying be aware of it. Be aware. It's like, oh, here I am, I do this. Be aware. And then when you are aware of it, then you can shift it. So let me give you an example. So I was married, second marriage, and it's a very nice marriage, a good guy, 15 years. And we decided to leave each other, but for not bad, whatever. We, what do you call it, grew apart. And he's a good guy, and we still love each other. We weren't, and we still are friends, basically. So it's a nice story of a loving divorce, we call it. One day, he's out of the house. He moved out of the house 6 months after our separation. And I wake up and I'm like, anxious and angsty, all of that. And I realize, if my husband was still in the house, I would have created a fight and blamed my misery on him. I would have told him, you said this, you did this, whatever, your mother did this, whatever. I will just create stories to put things that he has said or done, and every spouse has said or done something that is hurtful at one point, right? And I would say, that's why I'm miserable. But the man was not there. He was not in the house. He was not in my life even, right? So I'm anxious and I don't know what to do. And I'm I busy myself, something in the garden, in the house, I cook, I clean, I do all things to get rid of my anxiety, and it's not. And I finally sit in the bed at night, and my hands, as if my index finger has a consciousness of its own. I remember it came to me and said, and I was like, oh my God, it is me. It is me. I am the source. I am the reason of my anxiousness. And that's a very simple story. I would have projected it on my loved one, but it's really, I had to realize it is me. Now, going and doing this is the hardest thing to do in life. It is the hardest thing. It's easier to go to work every day and accomplish. It is easier to judge other people and tell them what is good and what is bad about their personalities and how victim you are in all your life story. It is much, this is the hardest thing, is to look inward and to say, oh, no, it's me. I have to see the part of me that is annoying me and irritating me and what it is. And it's a journey. It's like a trip to inside, an inner trip inside. Now, when you go into the inner trip inside and you converse with yourself, it shows you the good part of yourself. It shows you the not good part of yourself with kindness, with compassion, for you not to torture yourself, but for you to be aware where are the part that you are the mean person, or you are the hurtful person, or you are the angry or the impatient person. And I'm telling, these are my character, these are my shadows, what I call them, right? It's like, oh, I have done these things to others and I've hurt them. And to be aware of these things. So rule number 2 to happiness, what I call it, right? It's not go inward. The inward journey is hard. My book, by the way, Freedom is an Inside Job, is coming up in Arabic as well. It's not, it is, the journey is hard. What it lead you to is freedom. Freedom to know who yourself, to be able to be aware of yourself. And my word is that the journey to, the journey towards your freedom is so hard. Inner freedom from all the restrictions of society and community and family and rules and it's hard to go to that inward journey, but it takes you to a place of freedom within, of knowing who you are, and that is worth it. The taste of freedom is so delicious that makes the hard journey for it worth it. Now, so rule number 2 to happiness. When I was sick and I had nothing and everything in my life stopped, I would meditate for a long time. I call it appointment with my heart. Appointment with my heart every day, because when we make appointments, we are what do you call it? We go to the appointments. Appointment to the doctor, appointment to the teacher, appointment. Yeah. I have an appointment with my heart, and that is, it becomes an official appointment, so I have to go to it, right? And when I go to that, and it means 20 minutes for me, where I really focus on my heart. I just tell this mind, please stop for 20 minutes. I need to see my heart. And the vision I see is like my heart has a hand of its own, and it reached to me. And when I was sick, and it held my hand and said, don't leave me again anymore. Don't leave me again anymore. And because we do leave our hearts, we're always here. We're always here. We're always here. And that 20 minutes with our heart creates a connection and shows us aspects of ourselves, the beauty of our souls, that is that we don't get to see it in our physical beauty. You just put makeup on and we don't see it. And so that appointment then in that appointment with my heart, it teaches me how to listen to the language of the heart. And I don't mean romances. I don't mean, oh, I love this, but it has wisdom, it has knowledge, and I just need to hear it because I've been so busy in here and hasn't taken the time to stop here. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2, trust in life. Have an appointment with your heart every single day. You will learn to understand the language of the heart. Uh-oh.
Thank you, Zainab. I want to quote our doctor last week, Dr. Shuja, who did a session on mental health, and he quoted the Serenity Prayer, which I will read out. God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Is there a quote, example, or a book or philosophy that you live by? And I know you talk about the 7 rules. So would you touch upon that for our viewers today?
Well, the 7 rules, and they, by the way, this is how I measure my happy day, right? So I told you how I measured my happiness before. I am successful. I am accomplishing things. I am having financial means. I have nice vacations. I go to nice restaurants. I have nice clothes. These are where, like, how you measure, because that's how everyone is checking each other out on this level right now. And this is a good day versus not a good day, right? So first of all, happiness is not a permanent state. So let's just say, you have a peak of happiness. I go to a nice restaurant and it's delicious food. That's a peak of happiness, right? So happiness for me is not the measurement, it's contentment. It is being at peace every single day. That's the measurement. And there are days in which are excellent days, and these excellent days, the happy day, that's why it's not happy life, it's happy day, because there are sad days as well. And it is okay to have sad days. Just notice them, study the sadness, observe it, learn from it, and then the next day move away from it. Don't stay in it, basically. So for me, every emotion becomes like a book in your library. That's sadness, that's depression, that's anxiety, that is stress, and these are okay to go into them. They're normal. Don't be afraid of them. Go inside and feel it, like let it come all. One time, and I'll get into the happiness, but one time I was feeling very lonely in my life, right? So I just said, okay, I am lonely. I'm going to accept the fact that I am lonely. And this is it. This is my destiny. So the first day I was very sad, and, really it's lonely is sad feeling, right? Second day I was sad and I started doing things as a lonely person. I embraced the meaning of loneliness, right? You do whatever you do, you start you're shaping your life as a lonely person. Third day, I'm also deepening my life as a lonely person. The end of that third day, I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy. Because you sort of like, if that's what loneliness is, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. So you don't be afraid of these emotions. Go into them. And when you go into them, you actually discover that they can teach you things and you can get away from them also. But don't be scared of these anxiety of, let yourself be, and then you'll come out. You will come out. So, but my new rules now is very basics of measuring my own success in life, not only happiness, my own success of happiness. So I talked about trust in goodness. I talked about appointment with my God, with my heart every day, and God for sure. Now they're basic things like eat healthy, really. Like this is the third rule. You have to eat healthy. It's so basic. Everyone may roll their eyes on it, but there are times in which we eat unhealthy food. It doesn't lead me to a happy day. But when I really eat healthy food, I am a happier person. It is very basic. Drink lots of water. Right? It's so simple and it's so basic, but drink a lot of water, because when your body is hydrated, here's the thing, we don't necessarily connect happiness with our body, but the truth is our body is expressing unhappiness. If you are overweight or if you are bloated, these are all because the way you're acting and your body is expressing your emotions, basically, right? So for me, we have to look at happiness not only as a mental state, but as a physical space. So eat healthy, food, you know, I have become, I eat lots of vegetables. I've become a vegetarian, but even if you're not, but eat healthy food, drink lots of water. I honestly drink 2 liters of water a day, you know, and then exercise. And here's my thing, it's not only exercise, it's be in nature every single day. And if you live in the city and you just go to a tree, if you live in the country, it doesn't matter where you are. But I must spend an hour in nature every single day. And that because there's teaching in natures. There is, they are, you know, you learn from nature. I learned so many things from nature. For example, there was a big storm in where I live, and many trees fell. And I went the next day to walk and see what trees fell. And the big giant trees with trunk this big fell, but the small trees with a very small trunk did not fall. And I'm like, oh, so maybe that is, you know, it's so interesting that the big, powerful, but the small one that sways here and there, that does not fall. And I maybe this is it's a good teacher about the meaning of power and the meaning of strength. Maybe strength is not big and giant and forceful and rigid. Maybe strength is fluid, actually, you know, like the tree. So a lot of my lessons, I learned it by being in the presence of nature. So we talked about the heart, we talked about nature, we talked about eating healthy, drinking a lot of food. Few more things. One, always connect with family and friends every day. And sometimes we don't, you know, but I mean, quality time with family and friends every day, even if it's 5, 10 minutes, even if it doesn't matter, but that connection of community, you know, whatever your community is for me very important. In my previous life, I would be so busy at work. Sometimes I don't get to talk to my family or friends that day, you know, because you're busy and all of that. Now, it doesn't matter. I have to talk and check on my family and friends, far and close. Not every day, of course. I mean, I can do all every day, but every day I am connecting. It's a touchstone with community because that's very, very important. Another thing, show gratitude. Show gratitude to everything and every person around me. And there's a lot of talk about gratitude these days. Show gratitude, especially as Muslim. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. You say thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. But I mean gratitude to every person I'm encountering. You know, often we are rude with each other, and when we are fast, you know, you're shopping and you say, "But I want this." You're in the way. You're talking to the police. You know, we are rude, and we don't take the time to show gratitude for each other, the strangers, you know, in our lives, or the things in our lives. Yesterday, like, you know, was like, and one of these antsy days from me. And so we get antsy when we look at the future, when we want things in the future. I want this and I don't have this now, so I am anxious. And one of the simple way to actually stop this process is to step back and to look at the things you have in front of you today and be grateful for that. And if you don't have anything in front of you today, I have my exercise of showing gratitude every single day in my shower, which is I thank God for the fact that I have hair and that I have ears that can hear until today. And I have eyebrows, and I have an eye that sees, and a nose that smells, and a mouth that speaks. And I go in every single aspect of my body. And I am grateful for the smallest toes in my body. And because these are small things that we take for granted, whether it is our body, whether it is the person in our home helping us cook or clean or do whatever, whether it is our colleague, whether it is a person we don't like, we are sometimes rude in our fastness and harsh in our fastness, you know, and we don't take that moment to say, oh my God, it is all here all along. all along, and we're aspiring for something out there when we have it all here all along. And so gratitude became my sixth step. And the last one, most important one, is live your purpose. Live your purpose. And I say that because a lot of times in our scrambling, we want any job and we want anything. I just need to earn a money, and maybe you have there times we all had to do that, right? But I believe all what God ultimately wants out of us, and I'm a big believer in God, is to show the best out of us to this world. That's the ultimate task, is to show the best out of us to this world. So whatever there's no judgment, in my opinion, of what your purpose is, but allow yourself the freedom to live your purpose. So if you're a musician and that's your purpose in life, wow, that is beautiful. And if you are a business person and want to do something good in life through business, but good to life, good to nature, good to humanity, not in the old way we do business, which is extracting, in the new way of doing business, which is giving. It's giving and taking in a flow. Then do it, whatever is your purpose in life, because when there is a way to earn a living from living your purpose, and there is a way to be more fulfilled when you live your purpose. And when we don't do that, when we sacrifice ourselves because we think we have to sacrifice to do something else in order to make money, we get sick, we get unhappy, and then it's a vicious cycle that we're stuck in. So to summarize the rules: connect with your heart every single day, appointment with your heart, eat healthy, drink a lot of water, show gratitude to all things and all people around you, and create your own rituals. I told you my own rituals, the basic ones. But create your own if you don't have it, of just taking the moment. Sometimes I catch myself in my rushness harsh on someone in the store. And I just show kindness. And so show gratitude. Be in nature every day. Be in nature. That's the fifth. Live your purpose and trust in goodness of life. Trust in the goodness of life. I am reporting to you here from someone that exactly a year ago, I thought I was taking my last breath and that I was not gonna live. And it wasn't COVID, but if it was COVID, it would have been. And it took me 10 months to recover. And 10 months later, I trust life, and I trust goodness in life, and I trust kindness in life, and I trust people and people's love. And it got me closer to God than any prayers could have gotten me close. And it got me to learn the language of my heart. And so just as I said earlier, when I started Women for Women from zero to a hundreds of millions of dollars distributed to women, in this message I have, if I could do this and reach a happy day every day, then so can you. So can everyone in this world.
Thank you so much for sharing your strength, Zainab, and your secret sauce for life. I think our viewers are taking a lot of notes. I sure know that there was a lot of takeaway for me personally from that. So that's absolutely wonderful. And, as you touched upon the organization that you founded, Women for Women, and all the work that you have done, your activism work, your reporting and your coverage of all of that. We have a question that's come in actually before the session that I would like to read out to you. And this is from one of the attendees of today. And it says, for decades, you have connected and inspired women who persist in war-torn regions around the world. You have acted as a powerful voice for reaching and uniting women through a shared perspective. How do you give so much without sacrificing yourself? And I would like to add that what would you say to others who are trying to do the same, who are trying to give when maybe not having very much, or trying not to sacrifice themselves, but trying to give ultimately? What would you say?
I did sacrifice myself. I do. I have, by giving all of what I had, everything, materially and spiritually and physically. I used to say, if I was a rag, and like when you try to wash something and you squeeze it at the end from water before you hang it, I squeezed every drop of me in the process of helping others. And what I learned is that the cause does not require you to self-sacrifice. The cause you are working on, whatever it is, your job, your purpose, whatever it is, does not require you to self-sacrifice. And it's meaning, if whatever you're trying to accomplish, so THB Global, the Health Bank, for example, is trying to accomplish good health for everyone, right? So part of your, then if you're not in good health, then what's the point, right? So you have to, this is just an example, your priority is actually your good health as part of your mission to give good health to others, But if you work all the time and you sacrifice your good health in order to accomplish the good health for others, but you're at the end of the day end up being exhausted, depressed, sick, and anxious, and like nothing is left in you, is what's the point, right? One. And what you're working for is not asking you to self-sacrifice yourself. Second. And the third is, actually people are watching you, so when they see how you are as a part of the inspiration for what you're trying to do, right? So then your good health, in all ways that the global the health bank is measuring good health, becomes a part of the mission of your work. Does that make sense? And I learned this in the hard way, because before I would just say, I want women to do this, to be happy, to do, but then I gave everything and there was nothing. And when there was nothing left in me, I couldn't continue. And that's the difference. I couldn't continue because there's nothing left in me. And so you have to learn how to give and take in a way. You have to learn how to take for yourself as a way, so that self-nurturing and self-giving and whatever it is part of your ability to prolong your cause and do good for the world even better. So it's a hard lesson. I'm not very good at it, but I am believer in it now. Part of the challenge is our work environment, because we are measured by how many hours we work and what is success and the external ways of what success at work means. And that you have to have the strength in your core, basically, to define yourself. So when there's an external pressure that is telling you this is what work is, we work in the weekend, we work at night, you put your boundaries. You put your boundaries, because others are not going to put the boundaries. And when you put the boundaries, you then inspire others to follow, basically. So you have to be strong enough to say, these are my boundaries to take care of myself, in order for others to follow, rather than go with the trend, work 8 hours a week, yada yada yada, because then you're left with nothing.
Thank you. I would like to take a moment, Zainab, just to share the wonderful messages we're getting. We're getting such kind words from our viewers right now. Mr. Abdullah says he loves the session. Thank you, Zainab. Jamil loves that you are sharing some of your knowledge and life skills. Lydia is also thanking you. I would like to take one of the questions we've received, which is so wonderful. And it's by a lady named Laura, who has met you in London as well in the past. And she asks, how did you start? From where can we start changing the world? That's such a simple and short question, but Zainab, what would you share with us?
It starts with you. I mean, I really understand. It took me a very long time to understand what Gandhi was saying, be the change that you want to make in the world. And it's a very nice quote. We all have it, we all repeat it, but it starts with you. It's very personal. Everything I've done in the world has been very personal journey for me. Ultimately, even Women for Women and helping hundreds of thousands of women, it was very personal about healing for me. So it does start with the personal. Now we are living right now in a changing world, and if scary world, because there's so many questions. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's next year going to look like, right? None of us do. So I feel in these uncertainties, it's also rises an opportunity to shape the new world in a new way. And that shaping, that contribution to the world, it would be a shame if we do it in the old ways, which is a very, what I call a drive that sort of pushes through and then pushes through us ourselves, right? It would be a shame if we do it if we rebuild in the old ways. It's an opportunity to rebuild in a new way, in a perhaps kinder way, to ourselves, to each other, to the earth. So when I say it is very personal, I really mean it. It is very personal. Like, go and do what is personally passionate for you. And when you do that, you'll understand it's not easy and it's hard to actually make the change, but you have to be in the discipline to do that. But that's how it starts, that's how we start to go about it. So I hope that I answered the question, but I think each one of us right now is part of shaping the new world. Each one of us. We can no longer wait for others to define it for us or people to tell us what it means. This is up to each one of us of how to reshape our lives, even our personal lives. And so don't be passive, show up, describe what you want, take care of yourself in the process, and trust that it will happen. I mean, but you have to show up as well, basically. Show up in your new values, shape the values that in the life you want to do with your new values, and be persistent about it. And also don't be anxious when it doesn't happen automatically. The bird took 10 days to come. It may take a while for all this new life to come in shape.
Thank you, Zainab. I hate to do this, but it will have to be the last question that I take. And I thought wisely and carefully about this one. You touched upon drive and you touched upon kindness. Now, where is the difference between being driven by anger at injustice versus being driven by kindness and, a different kind of drive? What would your views on that be?
I would say they're all needed. They're all needed. I don't have issues with anger. I think anger at injustice is a good thing. It's because if we don't have anger, then we may allow abuse over and over and over again. And my example, I met an Afghan woman one day, and the Taliban were whipping her with a whip, and it doesn't matter what she's doing, and they whipped her in the street. And she tells me at one point she became so angry at the humiliation that she was being whipped in the street that she raised her hand and hold the guy who was whipping her, touches him and stops him. And he's so shocked that, first of all, she dared to hold him and tell him, no, stop. And that he stopped whipping her. He was so shocked. And his commander said, wow, a woman can stop you. Let her go. That is a good example of anger. If she didn't have anger to say no, he would have continued to whip her. Now, but if she, this is one I call it constructive anger. It's constructive. So anger for me is like a match. It is good to light the fire, But when we let anger be the driving force for everything we do, then and always use the match for everything, the fire can over consume us and consume everything. The fire can go out of control and burn everyone, including us, in the process. So for me is do the anger, no, but then, and maybe that's not a good example because I don't know but then don't continue with leading with anger. Then start demonstrating how you lead against injustice with also kindness. And but they each have a purpose. One is to ignite, and one is to show the path forward. And there two are needed. It's very hard for people to understand the role for each. It's very hard for people to even understand that most people are scared of anger, so it's to understand that it's actually needed when it is timely. But when you're in control and you can control it and you can show it, that's the way. So the more you know yourself, the more you do your work, the more you can actually be in charge of your emotions and show them appropriately. When you haven't done your work, you can just burst out and it's not controllable and it's all over the place and it's like a water hose that is just like doing this, as opposed to holding the water hose and watering only the areas that you want. So, but I have no judgment of anger. I have judgment of uncontrolled anger, because that's destructive. And we have, especially anybody who's working against injustice, it is our responsibility to not only speak about it, but to demonstrate what's the path moving forward should look like and can look like. And it is upon each one of us to have the discipline to show that path forward in an inclusive way.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Zainab. I will take a final question that's just come in. How can we manage our expectations when it comes to dealing with people and friends that aren't on the same page as us spiritually?
Protect yourself. Protect yourself. What I mean is, I don't mean protect yourself and not talk with them or all of that, but because some of them are families, right? But create your own space where it is for your spiritual growth. That's what I mean. And I literally create my own corner in my house. It doesn't matter, where I live. I always have this my corner. That's my spiritual corner, And honestly, I don't allow anybody to enter that corner. It is my space. And that's my protection. It's my relationship with God, with my heart, with all of it, right? And I leave it. I don't necessarily, there are people in my life, sometimes loved people who don't share that, right? And I don't necessarily share everything with them. Then I create a space, my space, and it's their space, and I can create a nice energy, but I don't go into I don't go into the spiritual sharing, which for me is very intimate and is very personal, it's very important. And so that's what I mean by protecting yourself, is create a shield around yourself. And you can imagine a shield around but the shield is not of concrete. The shield is of light. Imagine a light ball around you. The shield is of light. So you're still in relationship with this person. That could be a sibling, that could be a brother, that could be a husband, it could be whatever, it could be someone you're living with, and you still can love them for who they are, even though they're not sharing this path with you. So that's, but others can share this path with you. So I hope that helps. That's what I do.
That was so beautiful, Zainab. And most importantly, thank you so much for the invaluable insight today. We have such lovely and kind words coming in. I wish I could read them all, but I do have to end the session. So Zainab, but do you have a closing message that you would like to share to everyone watching today and showing us the love? I thought hard about this, and there isn't one
one thing, but I have an assignment for everyone, which is to learn the language of your heart. Learn it. It's like learning a new language. It's like learning to read musical language. It is like any language. Take the time and learn the language of the heart. It will guide you. It will show you some new things and new perspectives that you may not have been aware for. And I think this era, in this century, we need to have more heart in this century. We need to have more love in this century. We have been too much, there's too much pain and force that we have created in the past century. So we just need to, when I say love, I don't mean honestly romantic love, although romantic love is always fantastic. I mean, love, even how do you bring love in all the places that you do, and in your work, among your colleagues, in your encounters with other people? What does love mean? And what is the language of the heart? And what's the wisdom mean and kindness mean and all of that, when it's in every interaction that you do, and not, and most importantly with yourself. So that's my calling for everyone. I think it will show us all a new way of being.
I'm certain it will. Thank you so much, Zainab. And thank you to everybody who logged in today and who sent in their questions. I hope you will share this video with your friends and your family and spread this beautiful message of hope and happiness and overcoming challenges shared by Zainab Salbi in today's session. Thank you, everybody. I look forward to seeing you next week for Wellness Wednesday. Bye, everyone.
Bye.